Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to another episode of Knits by Lillian. We have a camera upgrade this week and I have been knitting a lot and it's chilly and I can wear everything I'm knitting, so it's gonna be great. Grab your beveragina of choice. I'm gonna be a little foul and pour this into a mug, but yikes. Let's crack into it. We've actually turned into an ASMR channel while you've been away. Okay, so to be perfectly honest, usually I don't film podcasts a week apart because I don't usually knit enough to have content to film, but I've knit a lot this week. We had a little football party over the weekend. I knit through that. Just been a very knitty week. So I feel like, can you hear the Coke, the Diet Coke bubbling in here? Cause like, I feel like you could. First, foremost, my Colette Pullover's done and slayed. I typically don't knit sweaters with this little ease, but I really like how this has turned out. I used Kelbourne Woolens Scout. I had this really nice gingery brown. Okay, see, the sleeve is a little bit short here, so I'm either gonna have to reblock it or add a little bit of length, but it works really well when I wear a watch on this wrist that doesn't come over the top. I wanted to do a sweater that was a little bit more fitted because I have a lot of pretty oversized pullovers that I love and are super cute, but I never wear because I can't put a jacket or a shirt or anything over them. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit more fitted, I guess is the word we're going for. I deeply love a loose baggy sleeve, okay? Pretty much all of my designs, did you hear that? Pretty much all of the sweaters I design have quite a bit of positive ease in the chest circumference and the body and in through the bicep area, because I don't love the feeling of having like your armpit be too tight on a sweater. I feel like that's something that turns me away from wearing a sweater, similarly to how some people don't like if the neckline is too tight. So I was a little bit under gauge on this pattern with this yarn. I think in her sample she does, I think it's still like in a worsted gauge, but I'm pretty sure she does a wool and then a mohair with it held together. So this pattern is Sari Norland, by the way, who is one of my favorite designers, probably. This sweater I was wearing last week, the Pahola pullover, the orange with the like round colorwork yoke, that's also hers. And I feel like, I don't know, she just has a lot of designs that are really like staples, but interesting. Like this is pretty, I don't want to say basic. The design is not too much to where I don't know how to style it, but it's not enough that it's not interesting. The one thing I will say is that I have a white t-shirt on underneath here, and these eyelet rows blocked out really well, almost too well to where you can see the white t-shirt underneath, and I don't love that. So I think I'm gonna go for something darker or maybe like more skin toned underneath. That's not a big deal. That's a very easily remedied problem. Other than that, no notes, perfection. Her patterns are very size inclusive. I think she does 9 sizes. Pattern is easy to follow. This is, don't be intimidated by this being all over cable too if you want to make this, because the cable, all you have to know is this. It's one 6-stitch cable, so like 3 stitches crossing over 3. And then this section just repeats the whole time. So you learn, it's really intuitive. You have to learn one cable and then it's like kind of in ribbing. So it's like cable, couple purl, cable, couple purl. And then these are just knit and purl, and then one of the rows is like yarn over and knit together. Not to give away too much because it's a paid pattern and I don't want to take business from her, but all this to say, don't be intimidated if you haven't done too many cabled patterns. This is a really good one, in my opinion, to start with. Plus, after you get through the body and you're like working in the round on the sleeves and everything, it's so easy because you're hardly purling anything at all. What's not to love? Okay, moving on. Okay, so the next pattern I've got, I cast it on Sunday, and I've been knitting pretty much just on this the last couple days. So this is the Siri Cardigan by Les Knit. I love this so deeply, okay? So it's nothing crazy. Couple cables, a little bit of seed stitch, pretty open gauge. We're on 6mm needles. I'm trying to remember if that's what the pattern calls for. I think, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. I think the pattern does call for 6mm needles. So I'm holding together heavy merino knitting for Olive with a mohair. It is Uma by Amano. I've never used this mohair before, but I really like it. So it's a mohair silk Surrey blend. It is like buttery smooth. It is so nice, and it's working up really well too. I think so. I think it's an Aran gauge, maybe close to bulky, but because it's 2 yarns held together, I think it's a lot drapier than, in my opinion at least, if it was just like one chunkier yarn, because I love working at a gauge where you're doing like, I think this is like 15.5 stitches, it's 4 inches or 10 centimeters. You work so quickly. Like I did this sleeve pretty much today, right? And it's so nice, but sometimes the fabric is like tough and stiff and it doesn't bend at all. Okay, you can see it a little bit there compared to something that's a little bit thinner gauge. A lot of this is like the tension you're knitting at, right? So if you're knitting really tight, that'll contribute to that more. I'm a really loose knitter, so it's not typically a problem I have too much, but all of that to say, I really like this gauge with these yarns held together. I think the shade of Knitting for Olive is Cloud. Here's the problem, okay? I got that yarn probably like over 6 months ago. I was gonna make just a stockinette cardigan. I wanted one that was, you know, white, off-white. Just a wardrobe staple. And I got not enough yarn and then couldn't find it in the same dye lot, and that just snowballed. So I was like, well, maybe I can alternate, you know, like helical knitting, cyclical knitting, whatever it's called when you're in the round and you do like one round from this ball and the next round from this ball. Problem was, it's cardigan, so it was knitted flat and it looked striped. Like you could see the difference in skeins, and it was not it wasn't cute. So I ripped that out, and now I'm working with a bunch of tiny balls of yarn from that in addition to some more that I've purchased. But I think holding it with this mohair worked really well because I don't actually have any of the Knitting for Olive, this little strand. So they're not quite exactly the same shade, so it's marled just a little bit. Not a ton, but key point, enough to cover up. See, I feel like you can't tell, but there's like 4 skeins right there. Enough to cover up the difference in dye lot. So this is a big win. Gonna pick up stitches for button band. Comment down below what kind of buttons you think I should do, because I've been seeing a lot of sweaters with like a big gold button and I feel like that would be fun, but I don't know if it's the vibe for this. I don't know, but I really like this. It's been super fun to knit. Can't wait to wear her. See, like when I put my arm out, I can see, I want that to be like just an inch longer. we'll come back to her. She might get a sleeve extension. Okay, I realized last week in the last like 30 seconds of my last podcast that I had a finished object that I just forgot to talk about. So this is my Oslo sweater by Petite Knit. She has not been blocked. Is that true? I'm the worst about blocking things that I'm not gonna wear like that day. Like this, I blocked and then I like put it on as soon as it was dry. However, this one has not been blocked. So this is a drop shoulder, all over stripe, stockinette pattern. I did it with Barocco Vintage DK, that's this white yarn. And then the blue or the alternating color is a hand-dyed yarn that I picked up from a local yarn shop, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I striped it in. I had maybe 600 or 700 yards, so not quite enough to do like a whole garment of its own, but I wanted it in a sweater. I'm not sure if I like how this turned out, to be perfectly honest. And maybe I should block it and try it on before I'm too harsh, but I don't know if I'm gonna like the fit. So the shoulders, first of all, are pretty wide, which is fine. I love a wide drop shoulder. I did do a couple of decreases on the body to kind of pull that in just a little bit as you work your way down through here. But the issue that I have is that the color kind of pooled more than I would like it to, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, that's not the worst problem we could have, but I feel like with the stripes, I don't know, it just doesn't look the way I wanted it to. I knitted a sweater last year, also by Lay Knit, the Porcelain sweater, that I did the color work with a multicolor yarn. Actually, just wait right there, hold on. Okay, I wanted it to look more like this. This is probably one of the funnest, I know it's not a word, one of the most fun things I've ever knit. So I did this is with a Pearl Soho yarn, and this is just the way that it alternated color naturally. I just held the skein as is. So I kind of was going for this vibe again. I thought this was so cool. This is a drop shoulder, bands of color work. And I loved how this turned out, and I wanted another one. And this just, it doesn't match the vibe. So I'm thinking of ripping it out and doing something else. I don't know. I don't hate it by any means. I almost want to do like 3 colors and throw like maybe a navy blue in there or something darker. It doesn't read as blue to me from far away. I don't know, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I feel like you'll get this. There's nothing wrong with it, it's fine, but that's it, it's just fine. And I'm at a point in my knitting journey, if you will, where I have knitted a lot of things, and if I think I'm not gonna wear something, I don't feel attached to hang on to it. So I'm just gonna set it somewhere and it's gonna become a cat bed, okay? As I'm picking this up, I'm remembering how much I loved knitting this. I'm gonna have to put this back on the Instagram grid because it's the season to pull her out again. Specifically, okay, so that dark pink right through here, I love that so much. I want to do some sort of color work with a self-changing hot pink to light pink yarn. So if you know of any, let me know. The ones I've seen, Spin Cycle is super expensive. And then there's another brand that I really want to try. It's called Manos del Uruguay? I'm not sure. But I think it's a brand or a company that employs like local women to dye and spin their yarn, I think. Nowhere near me sells it, but I've seen it online And it's really pretty. It's also really expensive, but if it's for a good cause, I'm more willing to pay more money for yarn instead of just like because I wanted to buy it. Anyway, so if you know of any hot pink yarn or any pattern that I should hold it in, let me know. But yeah, I kind of forgot about this. Should I make another one of these? This was so fun to knit, okay? Like, so fun. And it did have a little bit of color work flat. I'm just gonna link this below because we're talking about it too. It's not the most size inclusive pattern, I think, but I also think it's drop shoulder. I think it would be really easy to just add a couple more stitches or increase, so there's no armhole shaping, right? It's just flat. I think if you wanted this shoulder width, but you wanted a more chest circumference, I think you could increase through this stockinette portion, do a little bit more of a setting sleeve shape, and then just add another repeat of this body color work. Yeah. The only thing I will say about that yarn is that it did have a little bit of white in it. So there's a couple sections like right through here where it kind of looks like I didn't do color work, but that's just because there was white in the yarn. I thought about cutting it out and then I didn't. So anyway, all this to say, Oslo sweater's done. I keep calling it the Olga sweater, which I know isn't right, but I do like the little cuff detail. It's on the hem too. So I don't know, maybe she'll stick around. Comment down below what you think I should do. Oh, I forgot about this too. I did a split hem. I really need to block this and try it on before I start being such an avid hater. Did a split hem, not much, just a little bit, a couple more rows in the back, just because I thought it would look cool. And at that point, I had kind of already committed to not liking the sweater in my mind. And so I was like, well, there's nothing to lose. I might as well just go to town. So I went to town. So yeah, we'll come back to her. I'll report back and we'll see. Or maybe I'll report back and I'll already have ripped it out because I really like that yarn and I want it to see the light of day. So we're done talking about her. I had some family in town and she left a bunch of Diet Cokes in my fridge, and I have never really liked drinking soda. Kind of didn't grow up with it, but I've discovered that I love Diet Coke. And I know this is not an original experience, but I think the key is that I needed to pour it into something and wait for the carbonation to settle down, because I burp like an adult 60-year-old man who lives in the forest in a cabin that he built with his own hands, okay? Do you get the picture? It's not cute. It's not mindful. It's not demure. And so I kind of don't drink soda because I like can't control that. But if I give it a little stir, carbonation leaves, good to go. Okay, you did not ask, but you needed to know. Next order of actual yarn business, the Anouka Tank. Okay, I talked about this last time, but it still looks so good. And in the nice camera, like the colors, are you kidding me? Let me get my forehead out of there. Wow. Okay, so I haven't made any progress on sewing it together, but I do have the back done. So I just wanted to give you a peek of what that looks like. So we've got the same, it starts off the same, right? So obviously you got your ribbing and then this little band of color here and then this other little band of color. So then obviously where this goes into some more color work stripes, the back doesn't necessarily need that. So we've got just a simple all over repeating kind of like slip stitch looking color work. I would wear this as a sweater, to be honest. So I asked this question last time and a lot of you weighed in, so thank you so much. I still haven't decided if I want to put sleeves on it. I was gonna block it and sew it together, but then I cast on that cardigan and I just kind of went to town on that. So there's still time to cast your vote if you'd like. I'm thinking about doing a sleeve in this same pattern. I don't know, I think it would look cool. The question being, would I get more wear out of it if it was a sweater? Because I don't typically wear too many sweater vests. That's not to say that I won't moving forward, so maybe keep her as a vest and that'll motivate me to add them into my wardrobe. I'm not sure, but I I love how this turned out so much. I talked about this in the last episode more, so if you have questions about yarns I used and that kind of thing, check that out. It's the Anouka Tank. I think I said, but I forgot who the designer is. I'll link everything as always. I know these two are knitting for Olive Merino. Maybe the orange one is Copper. I'm not sure what the other shade is. The dark green is also knitting for Olive Merino. The light green and the white are a Cash Merino blend. Concept by Katya, I think. The yellow or the more gold, like beige tone is a wool that I had in stash. Yeah, I really love this color combination. I want to do, I can't remember if I said this last time, but I kind of want to do a sweater that's just this center pattern or something like it, with these kind of like really low contrast colors. I think it looks so cool. And compared to all the color work that I just showed, or typically the color work that I do, or a lot of like standard Scandinavian, Norwegian color work that you tend to see, I feel like it's always very high contrast, or usually very high contrast. It's like white and navy blue, or white and red, or white and black, or something like that. And I really like this. I think it looks so cool. However, this was on US size 2 needles. So what's that? 2.25 millimeter, I think? I might be getting something wrong there. It's on really freaking tiny needles, okay? And it took a million years. So I don't know if I want to commit to doing a whole sweater of it right now. I don't know if I would do it raglan or if I do it drop shoulder. I don't know, but it just looks so cool and I want more of it in my wardrobe. Can you imagine just like... Also, I mean this as a compliment. I feel like it looks like a fancy like rug, and I love that look. I want to look like a fancy rug. Okay, that's enough about that. Let me know if you think I should add sleeves. I think we've come to the conclusion of everything that I meant to discuss today. Typically I make notes of like what I want to hit. Clearly last time I missed a whole finished object, so they might not be the best notes. Just doing a scan if there's anything I missed. I think we're all set. Thanks for watching. Comment down below if there's other videos that you'd like to see me do. I will say I've been keeping track a little bit more of how long it takes me to knit things. People always look at my finished objects and ask how long it took to make that. Like a lot of people ask me about this sweater and I'm like, I have no idea. No idea in days, no idea in hours, like how many days I worked on it. But I think part of the problem is that I'm typically working on like 4 whips at once. It doesn't stress me out to have a lot of whips. I have a lot of ideas. Typically it's like 1 test knit at a time I try to limit myself to, even though I just agreed to do another test knit, which I'm actually really excited about. Just ordered yarn. We'll talk about that next week. However, I've been trying to keep track and like be a little bit more conscious of how long it takes me to knit things. So I'm thinking about doing some kind of video that's comparing like a stockinette sweater at a really big open gauge and then something like this that's really detailed and a much smaller gauge, just to kind of give people who maybe haven't knit garments or maybe don't knit too much an idea of how much actually goes into it, because I think a lot of people don't know, especially all the people who are like, oh, can you knit me a sweater for Christmas? You know how it is. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. Let me know if there's a specific thing that you'd like to see in that video, like mittens or a sweater or a hat or cables, color work. Let me know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, follow me on Instagram. You know the drill. We'll see you next time.